Okay, so here's the model we started with, and with the beautiful wall here, which we can always select, go into, modify. We can delete that shape out, for example. We can do anything we want with this edit profile option at the top here, which we went through last week. We also put in this this curtain wall, which is just a wall that's converted to a type of wall called curtain wall, which is like a simple way of setting up a shop front or something like that. And you can see that it came in. When it came in, it came in with the corner of the curtain wall right on the corner of the wall here, which doesn't look very realistic. It looks like a yeah. You'd have a water problem there anyway. I'll put it that way. So if I click on level 1 here and go in and select the curtain wall, you can see that we have these little arrows that turn up, and these little arrows here usually mean that this is the outside of the building. So if you've got a wall, if you select it and it's doing that, it means that wherever it thinks that the outside of the building is out here. And in most cases, it seems like it's got it correct so far. Yeah, but in the curtain wall, it's got it wrong. So I'm going to select it just by clicking on the middle here. And if I just click on these little arrows, it flips it around the center of wherever the location line of the wall is, which is running on the outside here, and it puts it into place. So you can usually get it to move things quite simply by just flipping it like that, and it should take care of all the cleanups and the corners and so on automatically. So it should take care of all these, the way the things connects together. So you don't have to worry about that stuff either. When you're selecting, and this is a very important thing to know, I keep talking about this. If I roll the cursor over it, you can see that it selects, it seems to be, if you see the blue selection there, can you see that on the screen? It seems like it's selecting the entire wall, but often you might get it, it's only selecting, something like part of the wall. And this is by using the tab button here on the top left of your keyboard. You can actually go through, just run through all the elements that are sitting underneath the cursor arrow there, depending on what you want to select. And that becomes useful if you want to modify your curtain wall, for example. So if I go in here, just going to finish off this little bit about curtain walls, I can run the cursor on top of the wall here, and you can see that the note is saying it's selecting the entire curtain wall, exterior storefront it's called. If I press tab, it selects the connected one, and then it selects the panel of the curtain wall. If I select it again, it selects the actual frame element at the bottom of the curtain wall. So that means we can actually modify these elements of the curtain wall separately. We don't have to follow this very methodical layout. So if I just click that and select it, we get this little pin turns up. And the pin tool, it usually means in Revit that something is stuck down. It's been stuck to the floor, and you can't change it until you take the pin out. So I'm going to just click on the little pin here, like that, and that means the pin has been pulled out. So if you get something like that where the pin is sideways and has a little red X on it, the pin has been pulled out, and it means that that element of the model can be modified. So then I can just delete it. So now we've got no frame in that area there. We've just got a piece of glass that goes right down to the floor. And the reason I'm doing that is that we want to put a door into the curtain wall as well, because it's nice to have a big piece of glass going around your house, but it's not much fun if you can't get out to the garden. So you kind of need to take care of that stuff too. So let's just do that again. I can go in here, tab it, and then I can wait until it highlights the panel, select it, unpin it, and over here you can see it's giving me this option, system panel exterior 22mm double glazing. So that's obviously what the rest of the curtain wall is made up of. But I have the option to go down in here, and I can change it to anything I want. I can change it to some of these door types, or I can change it to another type of curtain wall if I want to, or I can change it to an actual standard wall. If I wanted to put a piece of brickwork in there, I could just select that. I would modify that panel to brickwork, but it's still part of the curtain wall. So if I move the curtain wall, the brickwork will follow along. And then if I want to, I could just stick a window in there. Like that if I wanted to do that. So you can actually use it to make panelized buildings. If you ever look at modern buildings, they're often made with very prefabricated elements, large pieces of fiberboard or something that are placed together. So you can actually use the curtain wall to set up that kind of pattern and you know, change it to whatever you want as you go along. Well, let's select this again. Going to select the wall here. Got to roll over here and come down to, what have we got? What do they have in here? Single glazing, stacked wall. Then we have curtain wall, single flush, exterior solid, interior glaze. These are all door types. So what do we got? Oh, single flush, exterior solid. So I can just select this exterior solid option, and now we've got a door in the curtain wall there. Like that. That makes sense? It's easy enough, isn't it? Yeah. Just resume recording this. The whole idea with Revit is that you shouldn't have to do things twice at all. It should, as long as you model it correctly, it should be full of all the information that you need in all views, but also it should be possible to schedule the whole thing as well. Okay? I'll tell you what, I'm going to pause that there again just to make sure everybody grasps that little piece. Okay, so I'm going to just resume this here. So now we got something like that. That's just a simple thing. There's a lot of stuff you can do with curtain walls, and I don't want to get into it so much now because it takes a long time to show you all the different things you can do. The more important thing to do now is to do the basics. So we'll just get into the roof to start off with. So if we want to make a roof, and you made a roof already, I'm sure, in the intro project, didn't you? You must have. But I don't know if you did a roof. Did you just do a roof by footprint and then give it an angle, or how did you work it? Yeah? Well, let's just go. Let's just do a little bit of repeat, because in the first semester it's a good idea to do things a couple of times. So what I've done here is I've gone into the second level, so we're looking down on top of the walls we've made. So in the architecture tab, and the architecture tab is where you make pretty much all the modeling elements, all the elements that have to do with the house. So of course we've got a big childish button here that says roof by footprint. If we press the arrow at the bottom, we have some other options. Roof by extrusion and roof by face. And then we have, of course, the elements that go around the edges, the gutter, the fascia, and the soffit. Simple one is roof by footprint. If I select roof by footprint, I have two options over here. This little drawing panel over here. The one it comes to immediately is pick walls. I can actually go around and pick the individual walls that I want to use as the basis of the roof. And it's as simple as that. If I do that and just accept it, now take note of these kind of little right angle triangles in here. If I just accept that, oh, I haven't closed the loops. This is something that you need to do all the time. You need to go around and use this trim tool to make sure that all the loops are closed. But often, if you pick walls, it makes it quite difficult to do that. There it is there. So trim. If you leave any gaps in the geometry, it won't make the roof for you. But then I can just accept it. And then it asks, would you like to attach the highlighted walls to the roof? I'm just going to say yes, because they're the outside walls. It's deleted the wall sweep we had in there, but that's okay. I don't want to use that. But if I go into 3D view, now we've got this house here with this kind of ugly roof. It's a horrible, horrible looking house, but we won't worry about that for the moment. So I'm just going to see what I've got open at the same time here. Just close this down. If you ever want to get all your drawings open on the screen at the same time, the shortcut is WT. So just type WT and all your open windows will arrange themselves on the screen for you. Okay, so it's actually level 2 I want there. WT. There we go. So now we can go in and modify the roof to what we want. So let's say we want the roof to slope inwards to the center courtyard here. This is just the basics of roof by footprint. I can select the roof, edit the footprint, and what these little right angle triangle means is that an angle is coming from each one of these edges. So there's an angle coming from everywhere there's one of those triangles on an edge, there's an angle coming from it. So I can go around and say, well, I only want an angle coming from the inside of the house, because everything else I just want to be, you know, flat pretty much. So I can go around, I can hold down Control and select all those edges that I don't want to have making an angle of the roof from. And when I do that, I just come up here to this little tick box, Flubeam. See how good I am at Danish? Switch it off, and you can see those little triangles disappear. So also in the 3D view, we've only got those angled triangles on the inside face of the house. If I then accept that, it generates this this roof with only an angle coming from those inner faces of the house. Okay? I'm going to pause that now. So I'll put this one to 20 degrees. Oops. 20. Apply. And if I accept that now, you know, we've got a house that looks like that for some reason. So even with those simple tools of sketching the shape of the house and then changing the angles, you can quickly come up with a lot of stuff to do with well, you can modify the design very quickly. Is that okay? Sleepy, sleepy, sleepy. Okay. That's all right. Thing is, that's like enthusiasm. Okay, so of course, just like the walls, I mean the roof type we're using here, if I select it, it's just basic roof generic. But you can come in here and modify the structure of it or change it to any different types of roof. So very quickly, if I come in here and say edit type, and I'm going to duplicate it because I don't want to change the basic roof generic to be, you know, full of material. I want to make a new roof and give it a name. So I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to call this one test roof. And once we come in here, we have the same tools as we have when we modified the layers within a wall. So I'm going to press edit here, and at the bottom here there's a button for preview. Everybody can see that. So if I press preview, it's showing us what's in the roof, which isn't very much at the moment. It says here structure default roof 600 millimeters thick. So I can just say insert, and I can just keep inserting layers in here until I think I have what I want, and I can move them up and down. So let's say we want the outside of the roof to be, let's say finish 1, and I'm going to change that by pressing this button here to, I don't know, roof tiles or something. So I'm just going to type roof tile. Okay, so it's got a basic roofing tile. So let's just use that. Roofing tile, it's going to look something like that. Pretty disgusting, but anyway, that's what we're working with. It's okay. And now we want to move it up to the top of the roof. So I'm going to select finish 1, and then just come down here and press up, and you can basically just jump it up through the layers by pressing up and down. You can move them up and down based on where they should be. Of course, we need to give it a thickness, so we'll just give it a standard thickness. I'm going to say 20 millimeters, and you can see that it pops it into the preview over here on the left. I think what I'll do then is I'm going to make an air layer underneath it. So I'm going to say thermal layer. Just going to say by category, and I'm going to make that 30 mils and move it up. So we've got a thermal layer there, and what should we put in next? Let's put in a membrane, which is always left to 0 because it's, you know, it doesn't really count as anything. In here, I'm going to put, let's just put in some plasterboard. So I'm going to do finish 2. I'm going to change this to gypsum wallboard. Just ceiling board is fine. That's okay. And I'm going to make that 25 millimeters. So it's 2 sheets of ceiling board. So now we've got a roof that kind of has several layers in it. And let's just change the central element. We'll just change that to some kind of insulation material. What have we got? Batt insulation. So batt insulation is just standard rock wool type insulation. You can change it to the actual type of insulation later on, but it's called batt insulation because it's sold in batts. I don't know, it's an old English word for the different things. And of course we can modify it in there, so 600 is probably too much, so let's put it to 300. Like that. That's okay. And we've changed it, test roof, so on, okay, and press OK. And what it's doing here is, because we've changed the thickness of the roof slightly, it's warning us that it's going to delete some of the frame of the curtain wall, which is not a problem because that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to modify the curtain wall based on the roof. Going to delete the elements. And so that's the new roof type. It doesn't look much different until you if you turn on the realistic view, where it should kind of modify the it should have modified the pattern so it looks like a tile. Yeah, so there it is there. A really ugly tile. Okay. Yeah? Question? If I wanted to use this then to set up a cross section through the house, it should make a cross section with all those layers with the correct dimensions between them. So if I come up to, there's always a shortcut to make a cross section through the house. So you can either do it here, or you can go to view and then press section here. So I press section. If I draw a section through the house like this, let's draw it all the way down here. And I'm going to flip it because I can see that the section is facing away from the house. I want to actually look at the house. So I just press these little arrows, exactly the same little tool as we did to flip the curtain wall. And we can flip it so it's looking that direction. And it's also showing the extent of where it's going to show us the house. So at the moment, the extent of what it's going to show us is in the middle of the house. So I'm just going to drag this edge out until it takes in the whole house, so you can see the whole thing in the section view. So that's called section 1, and it should have set up a section over here in your project browser called section 1. If I double click on that, here's our cross section of all the work we've done so far. Pretty ugly cross section, but anyway, you can see that the layers that we've put in the roof have been drawn in automatically. So it's a time saver as to so you don't have to draw them several times. Okay. Now there's a couple of things we can do here, because you can see this edge of the roof. Edges of roofs are always very important because they give a lot to the quality of a house. I mean, if you look out the window at these apartment blocks over here, and they have this very ornate cornice along the top, if they didn't have that, they would have a completely different architectural expression. So we don't usually do that in modern buildings, but we do have the option to change the edges a little bit without getting too detailed about it. So if I select the roof we've made here, and I can do this in section view, I can do it in 3D view. Let's just WT this again so we can see them all. You can see that no matter what view I select in, it's selected in all the views. So it doesn't matter what you do, it's been changed in all the views. I can come over here to construction, and there's an option called rafter cut. And it gives us a couple of simple options for the ends of the roof as to how they're going to be cut. So the standard one is plumb cut, and that's just straight down. The next one down is two cut plumb. And if I select that, you can see that it actually gives us an option to change the depth of the fascia. And the fascia is the flat piece that runs around the base of the roof. Okay, so let's just change that to 100 and see what happens. It's deleting some more curtain wall mullions, but you can see that it has actually changed the end of the roof like that. So we can actually control, if I change that to 200, how the edge of the roof is cut. So you get control over how fine it is and so forth. The next option we have in here is something called two-cut square. If I change it to two-cut square, it actually makes the roof, follow the line of the angle. So we can change that to 100 again. Let's see, apply. And let me just turn this to hidden lines so we can see what it looks like. So that's what that looks like. So it actually cuts it, perpendicular to the direction of the roof. So those three options are in there. You don't use them very much, but sometimes they're a good, quick way to kind of set up an early stage roof design. So, yeah. Okay, so let's just shut this one down. So we have this okay looking house, but the thing about roofs is the edges are the most important thing from the point of view of the design. So if we leave them cut like this, it's going to look like it was slapped together by a child with behavioral problems. So we need to think about how the edges are formed. And if you remember last week, or last time we did it, we started talking about how we make these sweeps and so on, and by building the profile. So it's actually the same thing again. You can make a profile for the edge of the roof, so you can make it any shape you want. We have some shortcuts. If I go in here to architecture, roof, we have two main things here. We've got roof fascia and roof gutter. And roof fascia is just that piece of wood that you place on the edge of the roof in most standard constructions. So if I just say roof fascia, it's telling me it's going to make a fascia that's 25 millimeters by 250 millimeters over here on the right. And then I can just go in and just click the edge of the roof like that. And again, I get these little arrows where I can switch it so it comes down like that. And then we can do it again. Roof fascia, and I can go around. Actually, I can go around and do them before I switch them around, and actually put a fascia on every edge around the house. And when I'm finished, I can select it, and I can flip it so that it goes down into place like that. So you can set up a fascia that automatically follows the line of the roof. We can also modify the shape of it by using the metric profile family template exactly the same way as we made these sweeps over here. I'm not going to do that today because it's a bit too much information in one go. The last thing we can do here is we can add a gutter. So I can go into roof and then gutter, and then I can say, well, I want to put a gutter in here, and you can see, and in here. And so now it's made if we can see it there, kind of a gutter. Let's maximize this. I'll put on some shading. So it's made actually a roof gutter here to catch the water as it comes down the thing. Okay. So now if I go back into the section view, all these changes have turned up. Now, in here, you can see you probably want to modify some of these heights because the gutter is coming in actually above the level of where the water is going to be falling down. This is not a successful construction detail. You want to have the gutter underneath where the water is coming so it catches it. That's usually the principle of a gutter. But you can see that it's actually quite detailed. And again, all this is a metric profile. It's exactly the same method as we set up when we were dealing with the wall sweeps over here. So I can select this gutter and I can give it a offset. So let's make it -50. And we can move it around until we get it into place. Let's say minus. The -50 is fine there. And we should be able to do the same with the fascia, because they actually run the same thing. I'm going to put that down to minus 25. Apply that. Well, I went the other way. Sometimes, depending on how you put them in, they're actually upside down. So you have to just decide whether it's minus or plus 25. This one we did separately. Okay. You can always come into the select the gutter, for example. And again, it's the same thing. Go to edit type, duplicate it. And let's say we want to make a new gutter. Test. You can, this is where you change the profile. So exactly the same profile. Let's say we wanted to make, if you remember how we made the profile last time around, you should probably go back and have a look at it again. But if you remember, we made a cornice profile just to run around the outside of the wall here. We can use exactly the same one if we wanted to. It's exactly the same principle. So if I wanted to, for some reason, make it like this, press OK, it's going to make a gutter that looks like that. You know, that doesn't look very realistic. But just to show you that the shape is the thing that counts, you can use it in many, many different ways. You can also use it for handrails and all kinds of stuff. So you can always modify the gutter and modify the fascia to whatever shape you want it to be. So you have complete control over the edges of the roof. Okay. If you're making a building model and you want to make construction details, this is where you stop making the architectural model. You don't make any more 3D modeling than this. Everything that's visible, everything that you can see when you look at a building, if I take a look outside here, if I go into level 1, and I'm going to take a camera from here, and we're just going to have a look at the building in perspective view, like that. Let's just turn on the consistent colors. If I wanted to, I mean, there isn't more detail you could put into that, to that model that would change it significantly. You could change the materials so that the patterns change and so forth, but the actual 3D modeling, there's enough. So you have to know when to stop modeling, otherwise you can keep going forever. You don't need to do every single 3D or every single detail in 3D. You start to do it in 2D after a certain amount of time, but we won't get into that until later on. So that's kind of the level of the model you need to get to. Okay. I think I'll leave it at that for the moment.